Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood night. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a January 5th. LA Galaxy getting ready to report for physicals starting this weekend. That means everything must be happening, and what do you know? Stuff is happening. Galaxy get a little frantic, a little frenetic, start making some signings, doing some deals, dishing out people, acquiring people. There's a lot of things going on right now. We're glad that we can talk to you about it. There's some rumors circulating, possibly even maybe a GM rumor. Ooh, oh my goodness. When was the last time we had one of those? Are we allowed to have that? Who is your president, LA Galaxy fans? I have no idea, but we at least have a show for you today. To help me, he's back. We're glad to have him back, as always, from the great state of Texas, Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, buddy?
That was surprising from you, calling it the great state of Texas. I'm impressed.
It's a wonderful state. There's just morons who run it. That's all.
Outside of this general vicinity is what I'm guessing. But
yeah.
I was going to go on your joke on who's the Galaxy president. It's 8 o'clock Pacific time. Do you know where your club president is? I think that's a good riff we could probably go off.
Donde está el presidente?
That's all different. Yeah, this works in multiple languages.
Multiple languages, yeah. If we could figure out how to say it in French, I think we'd really be onto something there. Especially
Le President.
Good job.
That's all I got.
That's all you got?
That's all I got as far as I go. Happy New Year, Josh.
Happy New Year, Miss. Yeah, I know. Who would have thought? Here we are.
Look at us.
Look at us. Here we are. Here we are. This is not where I parked my car. Eric was texting me today and dropped a little. That was from European Vacation, right?
It's for Euro Trip.
Yeah. Okay. Euro Trip.
Slightly different, but
right.
The movie still holds up. Great movie, but an underutilized line is, "This is not where I parked my car." And I feel like that's the Galaxy could use that for a lot of situations. How did we get here? This is not where we parked our car for sure.
Yeah, this is exactly. This is not where we parked our car. Yeah, I mean, today was, I guess, unexpected. It was pretty funny. I was actually texting the Galaxy as the announcements were coming out. I go, "You got anything else? I just want to know and tell Greg I appreciate it because I didn't know what we were going to talk about tonight, and now we're good." And Vicky over at the LA Galaxy wrote back and she says, "I could keep going if you want me to." I'm like, "I think we're good for right now. I think we're good. I think we got enough. I don't want to make a show." She goes, "We'll make you go a whole nother hour. We could keep pushing stuff out." I'm like, no. I think we're good. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
That's the funny thing. I mean, we kind of knew about Mavinga. That rumor was happening this week. And then when Memo Rodriguez dropped, it's like, wait, this is too many players. We only have one player at a time. We need to slow down. We need to pace ourselves, before with all this preseason before we get going. So, yeah, tons of news. Lots of stuff dropping today. So fun times.
Yeah, this very much feels like The Office. It's happening. It's happening. Everyone stay calm. It was funny because everybody says, "Oh, well, nothing's happening." And then a flurry of things happening. But by the way, I don't think anything is massive on the whole scare. Some of it might even be meh, depending on how you look at it. But the wheels are turning. I think that's the big thing. The wheels are turning a little bit.
And that was my kind of consensus that I came to was you saw teams around the league, picking up players, picking up GAM, making trades, things happening. And the Galaxy were absent from all of that news. And that made me a little bit nervous. Like, okay, everyone else is making moves. Everything else is happening. And the Galaxy are just keeping their same roster, that they had at the end of last season, even losing more players. So I was just an honor to be nominated. I was happy just the Galaxy were in rumors and in with things happening. So you're right. No game-changing things happening today, but progress. We're now on the map. We're making moves. There's, the wheels are spinning. So it kind of lets you know that the MLS season is near.
The LA Galaxy just 2 days away from reporting to Dignity Health Sports Center. Now, Dignity Health Sports Park. I know how to say things. It's fine. I'll get there. But
StubHub Center at Dignity Health Sports Park at Home Depot.
By Home Depot,
Center.
yes. Presented by Home Depot. I was talking to somebody at the Galaxy. I'm like, I'm in preseason form. You can tell. Like, I am not firing on all cylinders yet. We're getting there. 2 days. Now, Damian Calhoun was able to tweet out today, and shout out to Damian because I feel like I missed him. I can't wait to see him. He's going to get a big bear hug whether he likes it or not whenever he sees me. He's saying the LA Galaxy reporting for physicals over the weekend. First day of training is now scheduled for the 10th. Okay, so they report on the 7th. Everything will basically be ready to go, and they'll hit the field on the 10th. So it's 7th, 8th. 7th is Saturday, 8th is Sunday. And then so Tuesday is going to be your first day of training for the LA Galaxy. We expect, by the way, if you haven't been paying attention, Douglas Costa was like, hey, I'm headed back to LA. Yes, that's what should be happening. That's expected. Don't sit there and freak out about it. It's okay. Maybe you need a stuffed animal to sleep with to give you some security about this. Douglas Costa is an LA Galaxy player. Always was going to be an LA Galaxy player probably up to this point. And so you expect him to go. And I think we made the point on, I was going to say Monday, but it was Tuesday night, just day before yesterday. Yeah. Kevin and I made the point that when did they buy out Giovanni Dos Santos? The very last day before. So if they're going to buy out, if they're going to do something with a Douglas Costa, it's going to happen, but it's going to happen in this time period between now and the first game, right? So
and that situation was a little bit different also because Zlatan had transferred over. We knew he was no longer going to be a TAM player, so you knew he had to have a DP slot. And so there were just too many DPs on the roster, so something had to give. For right now, there's not that situation where we have too many DPs. So as of right now, Costa is still on the roster, and we're expecting him to come back. He's under contract. If they're reporting on the 10th, he's under contract. He should be there on the 10th. That's his job. That's what he's being paid to do, and expect him to be there. But to your point, that doesn't mean there's not other options. There's not other things that could happen. If you see other designated players come in and maybe they get two designated player caliber guys come on this roster, then you say, okay, maybe Costa is going to be the odd man out and the one to go. But until then, it's okay. We still have plenty of time. We're going to get through this. Nothing was happening this week until it did. So it is what it is.
Exactly. 51 days now until that first game at the Rose Bowl against LAFC, so in El Tráfico to start everything. So that's where we sit in those terms. And I will say that with Douglas Costa trying to fill out his dance card as quickly as possible, he was talking to everybody in Brazil, it seemed like. I would still imagine that there is a want for him to return to Brazil. I feel like there's still a pathway there, so don't write that off yet. He certainly laid a bunch of groundwork and went and did the thing and kissed the rings and apologized and did the things he needed to do to sort of set himself up for that Brazil return. I still feel fairly strongly that he's not on the roster whenever this game goes at the Rose Bowl. That's my feeling right now.
And you know what the biggest mistake was by Douglas Costa is he was filmed playing some pickup and posting it, doing some indoor soccer somewhere, wearing a Boston Celtics jersey.
How dare you, sir?
And that's how you show your way out of Los Angeles. Is you start wearing the Boston Celtics gear. That's not how you ingratiate the people of Los Angeles. So,
sir,
maybe that'll fly in Brazil.
Sir, how dare you? And this is a Wendy's. So anyway, so that's sort of where we sit there. And I'm going to bring this image back up. This is the image of the replica kit for the LA Galaxy. This is the second kit that is supposedly coming out. I can tell you this, that I believe that I have seen the authentic kit. I know that Eric believes that he has seen the authentic kit. I can't show you what it looks like. It looks similar to that, so that's correct from everything that I've seen. There is some additional stuff on there. There's some flair, especially the red on the wings. I'm going to call it the wings or the sides of the
side
jersey.
paneling.
Yeah, it ties it in with. I think you were saying ties it in with the collar.
The collar. Yeah, this is all my dreams come true because I've always heard of people who get first looks but they're not allowed to share what it. I've seen it now, or I think I've seen it. It may be real. It looks real.
It looks real.
But the difference being has the stars, so it's authentic,
right.
And then the piping on the side is the major difference, and they're a little bit more red. So that the red and green on the collar kind of seems like it comes out of nowhere, or the red pops out of nowhere on the replica. Seems like it doesn't quite fit in, but with the red on the side paneling, I feel like it ties it all together. You're a community kit lifer that you are not going to be happy with whatever comes next. I'm not mad about it. I like this kit. I like the 2002-ish vibes that they're kind of going for, the City of LA flag that they're going for. I like it. I think it plays. I think it's going to make a nice contrast with the collar on the City of Stars kit, and then the collar with whatever they call this, the LA,
No, that's what I was going to ask. What are they going to name this? What is
but I think
community?
I think it's a good set. I think there's enough contrast, but there's also kind of uniformity in their style. So, I'm a uniform guy. I dig what they did with it.
Yeah. I was going to say, what are they going to call it? Right? Like community part dos? Like what?
Well,
what
it's something. It's going to be something for LA, the 4LA kit, or something for Los Angeles because of that city flag that they're basically borrowing from there. I think so. You're going to have LA somewhere in it. The Angelino kit or something.
Oh, get out! This is why you don't name kits. This
the
is
Angelino Derby. They're going to finally give up on El Tráfico and just
go
all in.
Call it the LA Derby, and everybody's going to get an accent. It should be a lot of fun. I think that people are going to like it. I do. I think they're going to like it. My whole complaint comes from, and this is very easily my whole complaint, is that you have the community kit. It was new. It was different. It was this flair. You caught lightning in a bottle. You did everything that you could because it was good design, good everything. And then you tried to hit copy and paste in order to keep the vibe the same. And you can't do that. Right? That's not how that works. The reason that the community kit was so successful is because outside the box, you were thinking, you grabbed from the past, you made it modern, you did a bunch of things. And so then they basically said, well, let's do the same formula again. If it was me, you go to a navy blue kit and you say, okay, here's our navy blue kit, and it's different. And you make it separate and you try to make the best navy blue kit that you can, knowing that it's never going to match the community kit, knowing that it's not going to be that, right? But that's going to be a really good complement to whatever you have on that first kit, right? So you had that.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And then you could have separated it and been like, no, we're going back to the teal. Now, someone like me could also criticize and say, oh, you're trying to go back to the well again, trying to drill up that money. That's what this feels like. So, hey, maybe there's no satisfying me.
There is no satisfying.
Okay, good.
but I like this is where, with clubs who have been around for centuries, this is kind of, especially when you think of a club like Boca Juniors or River Plate, I'm going directly to Argentina, but their jerseys are so iconic that from year to year, there's not really so much you could change because there's iconic elements of it. And so I think that's kind of what you get. You have a classic white shirt. We had the sash, which was the identity. And then for the away kit, I
miss the sash.
Yeah, going back to that history, you go back to your community kit with the stripes. I think until they can get Nike to kind of budge on whatever trademark they have for that zigzag, that 96, I think if they can get that back on a style of a shirt, that's going to be, a huge seller when they come back, MLS Cup winning years with that teal kit. I don't have an issue with going back to the well and kind of going with some of these historic kits, but I also like the going back and forth. That's a fair argument. Hey, we went back with the teal and black, those colors. Now we're going to, go to the navy blue, and then we'll cycle back to an old school. I like that pattern kind of going back and forth, but who's to say that they're not going to do that next time around? So plenty of jerseys to work with.
LA Galaxy, I know I said I didn't like the kit. I would just like to remind you, large, not extra large, okay? Large, not extra large, okay? Last time made me feel a little self-conscious. This time I'm hoping we can rectify that, if that comes about, yes.
And LA Galaxy, if you're listening, extra large. Extra large. That's it. That's all I got. Extra large works on all fronts.
Okay, good. I'm glad we were done just absolutely selling out, just so hardcore. Let's get to some super chats, please. And we got a bunch of them. Matt gave us a $5 super chat, says 1 for Mavinga. And then he gave us another super chat and he says 1 for Rodriguez. And then Chris said $5 super chat and said 1 for Pavone. I knew the Pavone stuff was going to come. And by the way, I want you to know, we'll talk about it later. Okay, but I don't know where Matt Doyle is seeing rumors. Maybe he looks in a different place than I. Maybe he watches the Galaxy much closer than I do. I have seen nothing to indicate that is true. So anyway, we'll continue. We'll talk about it later. Another $5 from Matt, and he goes, 1 cent for each time I have asked, is Chris Klein your president, to myself today? I don't, and nobody knows.
Yeah, Matt's coming in hot. Yeah, 1 for each of the players, and then for Klein. So appreciate that, Matt. And Chris, way to follow up. I think if Matt's going to be calling your shots and saying this is going to be 1 for each of the free agents, I think Chris is going on a limb and say, hey, let's put this out into the air.
Right.
Let's make it happen.
My wife is currently in that sort of speak it into existence. So I'm constantly trying to do that as well. Do you want to take the next one? I feel like this one's
Romina.
more up your go for it.
Yeah, Romina in the chat said Happy New Year. Shout out from a Portuguese fan in Artesia. Let's have a great 2023 season. So I know Romina. So again, Portuguese community in Artesia, we're a tight-knit community. We all kind of know each other. We go out to each other. So shout out to you, Romina. Thanks for tuning in, and all our Portuguese peeps in Artesia. Large Galaxy following. There's been a little bit of a rift recently with the new club adding, and then it being European, some Euro snobby type people kind of gravitating towards the other side of town. But the diehard original Portuguese in Artesia, they're true G's, true Galaxy fans. So big shout out to you, Romina. Thanks for jumping in the chat, and thanks for the super chat.
Romina, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. All right. So we are now at a spot where I think we can start hitting some of this news, and why not? Let's start from the very beginning. Let's go with this. This is the one that sort of went under the table a little bit, right? Nobody's really paying attention. Didn't mean much. It still doesn't mean all that much, but the LA Galaxy did acquire $50,000 in general allocation money from New York City FC in exchange for the Discovery Priority. I like how they say Discovery Priority instead of Discovery Rights now. They've changed it.
You can't fool us.
We know where you're going. For defender Micha Jenic.
I'm just glad we didn't have him on our team with those Discovery rights, because we'd have to practice pronouncing that. That'd be a fun one.
This is one of those that you sit there and say, well, I bet the Galaxy could have used him. And it's also one of those. It's like, no, they weren't. No, they probably weren't going to, right? So why not get $50,000 for it? And apparently he was on the Galaxy's Discovery Priority list of things. It's so stupid.
Can we talk about that? When is that going to change? Because that I think we've gotten to the point in the league where with the Ronaldo rumors that just is kind of ridiculous the way it panned out. And I know you and the Panda talked about it, but I think the rules eventually have to change on that. If a player is, and I don't know how you fix it, because you do want to say, hey, we did discover that name you just described, and I apologize. I'm not going to, I didn't stick, but that player, he wasn't necessarily on the world radar, but the Galaxy kind of, hey, if we're keeping an eye on this guy, let's scout him. I could kind of see that. But with a player like Ronaldo or Mbappe or, even Christian Pavone, someone who's kind of made themselves known, I think we've reached a point in the league where they can start to let that go.
Yeah. It feels forced at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not realistic. Well, I mean, in the larger scheme of things, the single entity is all BS now too. So it's like, that's one of those things. That is a relic from single entity, and they pretend like single entity. If anybody challenged single entity in court right now, they would lose. The league would lose single entity because teams compete for each other for free agents. They compete for each other on the world market. So they're not a single entity. They are absolutely competing against each other.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I know this. The single entity is the reason for it, but I do think that, rules can change. There's so many rule changes that happen every year in MLS. Why not? I think it's time for that one to go.
Very well could be. Now let's get to one that has a little bit better, sort of, making you feel a little bit better, maybe making you feel a little bit worse. I don't know. This is one of those where I think when you hear that Sacha Kljestan announces that he's retired, nobody's surprised, right? He was certainly last year, he was like, this is not my last year. And I have a feeling that he would probably play again if he really thought he had an opportunity to play in LA. Whether that was with the LA Galaxy or whether that was with LAFC, I don't think he would care. He would probably want one more year. He probably understands that's not a possibility this year. And I would imagine the Galaxy didn't offer him a contract to come back. And all that stuff happens and it goes. But I don't think he was going to move his family at this point. That was it. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm staying. I'm retired. If I can't play where I can be here and I can be home with my family as much as possible, talking about a guy who just spent, over a month in Qatar for the World Cup and doing all the stuff that he was doing for Fox Digital. I would imagine that he probably would have stayed, but he needed to be here. And if that wasn't an option, I felt like he's probably okay and at peace with this decision. That sort of makes sense to me.
I think when he returned, or he didn't really return to the Galaxy, unless you want to count that, your news dropping, and what was that, 2014, when he was rumored to come back. But it was a homecoming of sorts to him returning to Southern California, with roots here. And so you would imagine, after playing 3 seasons with the LA Galaxy, if he did get an option to go to like a St. Louis City or, something like that, that he wouldn't uproot after kind of saying, okay, I'm returning home, everything going, I'm not now going to move everything out, or maybe my family stays here, but I'm going to spend 9 months in a different state, in a different city. It's just not practical. So it makes sense that if there wasn't an offer in Los Angeles, that he wasn't going to entertain offers elsewhere, and he just decided to call it. You mentioned the work that he did with Fox Digital during the World Cup. He had a fun little show there with, Jimmy Conrad and
right.
on Twitter. I that was really fun. And I think he showed a lot of comfort the more the World Cup went on, and he was really kind of a joy on there. And I think he may have discovered a new kind of lane for himself. And I think that may have opened his eyes also. Maybe he said, I could come back and I could, grind it out and go through the physical labors and kind of hurt myself again. Or I can maybe make, similar amount in salary, still live in Los Angeles, work in a studio, work, with Apple TV, work with MLS, work as an analyst, with his experience with the U.S. national team and experience in Europe. I would imagine that he'd have plenty of suitors at Fox or CBS or any of those, whip around shows, that he's going to have a job somewhere in that sphere. And I think that work that he did in Qatar, probably opened his eyes to that. So kudos to Sacha Kljestan. Great career, national team player, playing in Europe. And then his time with the Galaxy, when he came to the Galaxy, you kind of hemmed and hawed and you said, do the Galaxy really need a player, at this point in his career? Is he going to be able to contribute? And then over his tenure, he just, put that in any doubter's face. He showed with his leadership that this is something that the Galaxy needed. They needed him on this squad. He was someone who spoke up during one of the more difficult seasons, was always willing to talk, took leadership roles, took penalty kicks, had big moments. And, the players who have been posting today, Julian Araujo, Dejan Joveljic, they really have shown how important of a mentor he was to those players as well. So we could say leadership qualities, you're bringing in a veteran, you're bringing in a locker room guy. We can say that all day. But when you have the younger players saying that and making a point to kind of tip their cap and give that player his flowers, that's where you recognize, okay, that's a real thing, and that's the real value that a player like Sacha brings to your team at this stage of his career. Because I really enjoyed what he brought to the team. He had great moments with the LA Galaxy this past season. You could tell the legs may not have been there anymore, and that probably contributed to his decision as well. But that doesn't mean that he didn't have a lasting impact on this Galaxy roster, even moving forward.
Yeah, and Sacha, if you want to come on the podcast anytime, I can make some room up here. It wouldn't be very hard. I could just keep sliding Eric a little bit over.
I was going to
and
say, you could just remove me from the screen altogether. Yeah.
There's plenty of room in this podcast, Sacha, for you to come on anytime you want. No, but Sacha has been so great and so much fun to talk to over the years, and just what a great guy that he has been throughout everything. He did that sit down with us a little bit earlier, and we got that whole one-on-one that we could sort of talk to and say hi, and it was a nice moment, very honest, very open, very easy to talk to, very personable guy, and you just wish the best. Such a passionate guy, believes in like standing up for what is right.
Yeah.
And
that's where he earned a lot of fans' respect with his speaking out during these crazy times that we've kind of gone through in these last few years.
Yeah, it'll be it's one of those that I think losing Victor Vasquez, I think losing Sacha Kljestan, there's a vacuum that gets created with that a little bit. So who steps into that, and how does that work? So that was the big thing, and Sacha wrote a really good sort of goodbye message today. And if you go on Twitter, it says "Thank you, soccer" and all this stuff, and he goes and he talks about the whole deal. And this is a guy who has played an unbelievable amount of soccer in Major League Soccer, almost over 24,000 minutes. The big number there is that 99 regular season assists, trying to get that 100 so many times.
That stings. That one really stings. Yeah.
He's like, just give me 20 minutes, like one game, right? Like 20 minutes, one game.
Especially with the protege of Dejan Joveljic, you could tell the bond that they had.
Yep.
Like for it to be to Dejan having the season that he had, and to be you could tell they wanted that to happen so bad. So that is the part that kind of stings.
Still beloved in Anderlecht, by the way. Still a guy who they said, hey, enjoy your retirement type of thing, and wildly loved there in Anderlecht, and was a champion there with Anderlecht as well. So, so many good things to Sacha Kljestan. We wish him all the best, and seat is always open here. Sacha, anytime you want to stop by and say hi, you're more than welcome to do that. Sacha is one of those guys who lives relatively close to me. One of my so-called neighbors. One or two of the Galaxy players live in and around where I live, and I've stumbled across him over the years. But I'm sure he'll be around, so I'll harass him and make sure that he comes on the podcast.
I was going to say he's a media personality now. We may not be able to afford him.
We probably can't. Yeah, he probably needs a fee now.
You're
right?
going to have to stake out his house and say, "Oh, funny running into you again. Do you want to come on the podcast?" Yeah.
Here's some microphone.
Doing this.
Here's some microphone. You just sit out here all day, Josh. That's what you do. It'll be really interesting to see what he does next. So now let's turn the page. Let's talk about acquisitions. You lost Sacha Kljestan. Let's talk about who the LA Galaxy brought in. And this was the rumor that we talked about on Monday. Chris Mavinga officially signed. Listen, when Tom Bogert says that something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Mostly because I'm pretty sure Tom has a source within the league that whenever contracts come across that person's desk, they tell him. And it's like, because it's like clockwork almost all the time. Once he's like, oh, basically it's signed, everything's going. So Chris Mavinga officially signed to the LA Galaxy. He'll now be headed his direction. This is a reuniting between Greg Vanney, between Chris Mavinga. Remember 2017 in the treble. Chris Mavinga played and was a pretty good starter in that 2017 year. This is a guy who struggled with injuries, who's gone up and down in form. And if you really want to play some fun pointy hat conspiracy theory stuff, this is a Jerome Miri guy as well.
I noticed that today also.
Yeah, and I knew that beforehand. We've talked to Greg Vanney about Jerome Miri, and he has said that they've used him in Toronto. Blah blah blah. They use it like the whole deal. So he's very familiar with them. It's not a surprise. I think some people were saying, okay, so the LA Galaxy are going to be better at scouting, right, Eric? Remember that? I mean, that's really, they should be better at scouting now.
We were told they have a scouting network, yes.
Correct. They have people. They have things to do. They're creating ghost lists and all this stuff. And I think there is rightfully some concern that whenever the LA Galaxy have the ability to do that, and let's say they went after somebody like Aaron Long, and we talked on Tuesday.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's when we talked on Tuesday about how the LA Galaxy seem to miss on free agents an awful lot. Like they don't get that top tier free agent. Everybody skips them, and then they get these other guys, right? This feels like that sort of step backwards, but there's also some arguments, I think, at least with Mavinga, that one is Greg Vanney is just like almost every other coach in this league, which is they're going to go back to guys they know, right? So he needs something. He thinks he knows what he can get out of Chris Mavinga. Well, I think Chris had some family issues and some injuries and a whole bunch of different things that were going on, right, over the last year and a half. So he's a guy who maybe is looking to like resurrect that form, find that, and he wants to be in a comfortable place, which is with Greg Vanney, and Greg Vanney wants him because that's a comfortable place for Greg Vanney as well. Bruce Arena does this. Caleb Porter does this. There's not a coach in the league that doesn't go and grab their guys whenever they get a chance.
Yeah, on first glance, that's kind of the part that makes you balk a little bit and say, is the ghost team just the 2017 Toronto TFC team? And that's it. That's the ghost team. Whenever you run out of ideas, you just go to that roster and decide who can we pick up from there. But to your point, Bruce Arena, is bringing Dave Romney back to New England. He had Leggett there. He had Emma Boateng there. So he has his guys that he knows what he could expect out of, and he calls them back, and he has success with that. And other coaches do that. And so I understand the point of every coach does this, so you can't get mad at it. Logan just mentioned Siggy did the same thing with his players.
They all do it.
And so I can kind of talk myself into that. I'll go one step further. Look at who Greg Vanney has brought in from Toronto. Raheem Edwards has been serviceable.
Yes. I think above serviceable. So yes.
Yeah, but definitely he had his moments where he's had struggles.
Right.
But you're right. Better than average.
Right.
Bringing him in. Mark Delgado, when he's been on the field, he's been stellar. Had some struggles last season, but
had top 10 MLS numbers last year. In fact, might have even been top 3 MLS numbers last year, and everybody sort of breezes over that. But yes, correct.
Yeah. Then Victor Vasquez, what he was able to contribute wasn't an everyday starter, but he was dropping dimes, scoring clutch goals this past season when the Galaxy were down in the dumps. Victor Vasquez was that guy who kind of provided that spark. Oddly enough, the oldest man on the or second oldest man on the roster. I don't know if he was older than Sacha or not, but one of the older veteran players was the one who was that spark to get the Galaxy going. So with that being said, okay, now he's brought in these players from Toronto and had success with that. The one counterpoint to that is Eric Zavaleta maybe not having tons of success, not kind of filling that role. But we knew that coming in.
He didn't
wasn't
cost
someone
any
who was-
money.
Yeah,
didn't
and he
cost
wasn't
any
setting the world on fire. He wasn't, it was one of those things. So you take that for what it is,
Right.
doing his nephew a favor there, getting him into the squad. So I'll concede to Greg Vanney on, getting the gang back together from the 2017 TFC team, because the players that he's brought in have had success with the Galaxy. So until he brings in a bunch of stinkers. And the thing is, you can't keep doing this. Eventually, those players are going to be older and they're going to retire.
Right.
You're not going to be in 2030 bring in the 2017 TFC champions, treble winners. Eventually, those players you're going to run out of those players. But while they're still serviceable, I don't have an issue with it, and we'll see how it plays out on the field.
Here was the thing we talked about on Tuesday, that Mavinga made over $1 million, just barely over $1 million in guaranteed salaries, like $1,337,500, right? That was his salary in 2022. I was able to reach the LA Galaxy today on this, and I clarified, and I just want to make sure. The press release didn't mention targeted allocation money, which usually indicates that no targeted allocation money was used, because they have to say it whenever it was used, right? So I was like, okay, that's a good sign, but I still want to double check. So I checked. The LA Galaxy confirmed with me no targeted allocation money was used to sign Mavinga. That means that his salary is below the max budget charge, which it was $612,500. I don't remember what it went up to, but it's probably right around $700,000 this year, right in that range. So it's below $700,000, which means he took a pay cut in order to come, which was probably necessary, dependent on form and availability from last year of what he could get. I'm not saying he's making $200,000. I'm just saying that he's not making $1 million. So we won't know what that salary is until the salaries come out. So to really be able to judge this deal, but when you figure that, I think Derek Williams was, and let's see, hold on, I actually have my charts here.
Well, while you pull that up,
yeah.
I will say that he was, towards the end of the season, he was a 90-minute starter for about 10 of the last 12 games. So while the form may not have been there at the beginning of the season, kind of middle of it, towards the end, he was one of the regular starters there. So I did expect the salary to jump down. If you go on transfer market and believe any of that has him at $600K. So again, it's going to be probably around that $500,000 up to 600 in that range. And I think when you compare it with Aaron Long, who you may have had to kind of break the bank and spend all your TAM and to get going for someone who, to be honest, is probably going to be better than Mavinga, but at what cost? And then who are you not going to be able to bring in, and how is it going to hinder you with other moves? I think you can live with this. Getting the second best may be something that kind of works in the Galaxy's favor in this regard.
I think you're going to find him left-footed center back, by the way, so same as Derek Williams, right? So I think you're going to find that Mavinga is similar to Williams in a lot of ways. So something somebody else pointed out is the French connection with Sega Koulibaly is kind of cool too, right? Like, so they can both speak French to each other on the back. That's kind of fun. That makes for usually a good partnership whenever the two guys can sort of not just speak English together, but also speak the same language together. That's a fun way to bind center backs together. So I get that. Derek Williams was making $750,000 in base and $820 in overall salary. So I would imagine, like we said, this is going to be a Derek Williams replacement. Now, having said that, I think it's almost a straight Derek Williams replacement with Martin Caceres, and we sort of don't know whether or not he's going to be coming back. I anticipate he is right now. So when he comes back, you're going to have the rotation between him and Mavinga and Sega Koulibaly. You're not going to have Nick DePuy anymore because that's our next one to talk about. Nick DePuy goes to Nashville for $50,000 in general allocation money, and we'll talk about whether we think that's fine or not. But you're not going to have Nick DePuy anymore. So already I think we're seeing an adjustment in depth. Perhaps Jalen Neal slides into that Nick DePuy spot where you're on the first team and you're ready to play minutes whenever they need you to play minutes, right? So you could be seeing something like that from Jalen Neal. There's also a possibility the Galaxy aren't done yet looking at center backs. Alexander Callens out there from New York City. I think he's a free agent. He is the second top free agent in center backs. Could possibly be an addition. You'd have to look at Caceres and see whether or not he's coming back. If he doesn't come back, I could see them going for someone like Callens and bringing him into that spot, and then really having, I think, a solid right now center back. If Caceres comes back, is set.
I agree.
You're good. You're done. You have all the pieces. If Caceres doesn't come back, now you have an issue, I think, because I don't think Mavinga is going to be a 34-game guy. I don't think Sega's going to be a 34-game guy. And, if even if they keep Caceres, he's not a 34-game guy. There's a rotation there that needs to happen, especially with all the games that are going to get played this year.
Yeah, I think what it tells me is that you may see, Neil and Furkranis kind of get some of those minutes and start to give that with Nick DePuy being gone. He was someone who kind of slotted in when necessary, but Sega Coulibaly and Martin Caceres, they were your starters, and to me, if they're available, you start them coming back, and then Mavinga provides that depth, and then seeing how he plays, maybe he's able to kind of overtake Caceres, and Caceres becomes more of the depth piece, and then you sprinkle in your youngsters with your Neil and Furkranis, and I think now you're set. Now that's a center back. That's how you kind of sprinkle and get your young guys experience, have your rotation of guys with the, truncated season that we're going to end up having with games close together and with, Leagues Cup and all that fun stuff going on. I feel like that's a good, 5 center backs there that the Galaxy can build around. Maybe they could add one more MLS veteran who's going to add, more experience. That's probably something that they could benefit from. But I feel like center back at this point is pretty much set. So I'd be excited to see if they went for more outside backs.
More outside. I really think that's almost set too, though. Like
it is set, but it'd be
because
rotational.
If you look at, but I'm not saying, by the way, and we're going to talk about this a little bit whenever we talk about the midfielder the Galaxy signed and how that is depth. That's a starter on another team type thing. Like the Galaxy just got deeper. But when you look at it, Julian Araujo and Kelvin Leerdam on that right hand side, so they can back each other up. That's fine. That's set. You have Raheem Edwards and Chase Gasper on the left hand side. That's fine. That's set. You have Kelvin Leerdam, who can play left back as well, so he can transition over there. Kelvin Leerdam can also slide into the center and cover positions in the center if you need him to. There really is a lot of movable pieces there. I don't see any additions coming in there. Whether or not you find some young guys who can sort of fill in and maybe in some of those spots, maybe. But I feel like your back line, your goalkeeping is set as long as, and as soon as we know the disposition of Caceres and whether or not Martin is going to stay or he's going to go. Those are sort of the things for me.
They exercised his option, correct?
They did.
So technically he's under contract, like on the 10th,
yes.
He should be
there.
Ready to roll. I would expect him to be here. I mean, unless you have information that I don't.
The idea was that nobody knew whether or not after the World Cup would he retire. And so that still is sort of, I think, up in the air. Although, if I guess people who are following him on social media say that doesn't seem to be the case. He seems to be ready to come back.
Yeah.
So I feel like
I
he's
would
coming
imagine,
back.
with his disposition and the way he looked the end of last season, I would imagine he's ready to go and wants to play and wants to keep going. I'd welcome him back with open arms here. Kind of some dreams going on in the chat with John Brooks not getting a lot of playing time in Portugal. Maybe he's someone you could go out, but he's going to be someone who's going to be expensive. Probably even more expensive than Aaron Long, or you might have to get creative with contracts. So
right.
I like John Brooks. I thought he would have been great, for the United States and Qatar. I thought, whatever issues, we know Berhalter's having plenty of issues right now. But aside from John Brooks, I know that's a whole different podcast, different discussion. But I don't think that's a likely target for the Galaxy. Although I like John Brooks. I think he's a great center back, but I just it doesn't seem like a realistic move. And that's the one thing that I think we have to be careful as Galaxy fans, because I see it's like, well, why aren't we going after Messi? Why aren't the best players and I get that. We want those players on our teams, but we also have to be, Aaron Long was, a bridge too far with salary being an issue. When Aaron Long is too hefty of a target, then you kind of need to rethink, who you want on your team.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with a lot of that stuff. Let's get to Philip gave us a $2 super chat. He said, "Who would Galaxy fans rather have, Long or Bradley? Bradley, as in Bob Bradley or Michael Bradley? Which one of those? Are we talking about former TFC players? So Michael Bradley? I think I would rather have Long just because I think the midfield's sort of semi-set for the LA Galaxy. I don't know, maybe just my guess. Thank you for the super chat though. Appreciate that. Let's see." Oh God!
I have the same thing. I keep pausing and breaking. Yeah, good time. So word of the day is disposition. You put that in my head. No, I put that in my head. I had a funny one in the chat. Says just say he's hot. Quit calling it his disposition. He does have that look like he wants to get after it. So I'm not gonna argue that. Yeah, Caceres, I get it.
He could have my babies.
I'll leave it at that.
That's what I'm saying. He could have my babies. That's all I'm saying. I'm just, that's all. No. It's funny. Some guys are just like exude footballness, right?
Masculinity.
Right. Well, no, it's not even that. It's
but
just like,
Caceres has that like.
oh yeah.
And I think it's the Uruguayans too, because Gaston has that same thing. Like
I was going to say Gaston is the other one who does this to me.
I think it's something about the Uruguayans have that special something.
Gaston is this little slight dude, right? And like I'm taller than him, and you see him, but you're also like, I'm not messing with that guy. Like there's no way I would cross the street and go the other side if I saw that guy at night. You're like, that guy. There's something about him. He's way too confident. I'm going over on the other side. Like I am. But he's a lot of fun. Those guys are a lot of fun. It's a good time. Nick DePuy. Nick DePuy goes to Nashville, $50,000 in general allocation money. It seems like not enough. And there's a couple things that go through my head whenever I see that number and sort of say, okay. One is, listen, there was not a lot of juice behind Nick DePuy's name. All right. So that's one thing. And maybe I overvalue him a little bit in that. And I love to overvalue domestic defenders, but domestic defenders are valuable. Dave Romney, who I talked to just before he got transferred over to New England and was talking to him about reuniting with Bruce Arena. He was all excited about that. And Kurt Analfo too, right? Remember Kurt Analfo started Dave Romney's career with LA Galaxy 2 and then came up with LA Galaxy and that type of thing. So he's getting over there. He's excited about going back. But Dave Romney got sold to New England for $650,000 in general allocation money, right? That's a lot of money. But Dave Romney went to I think he went to Nashville for $250 or $200 whenever the LA Galaxy moved him in that direction, and it was one of those he wanted to go. And he said in his exit interview sort of with Kevin Baxter, he said, I felt like they undervalued me, and they did. They 100% did. And it was the same with Dan Steres a lot of times too, that we've seen. And so I feel like Nick DePuy gets a little bit of that rub from me too. It's like undervalued a little bit. And I know people don't like Nick DePuy, and I remember the happy dances people did when Dan Steres was traded and the happy dances people did when Dave Romney was traded. And I would say in those particular cases, for sure, I thought you were wrong. Nick DePuy is going to be okay with Nashville. You watch. And Eric was like, we'll see. Right? Like
Those guys are all, it's same guys, but in different fonts. And I think it's one of those things where like Romney was, Pokemon, he's Charizard. Dan Steres is your Charmeleon, and then Nick DePuy is Charmander. Like he's the furthest down on the evolution category here. So again, I was upset to see Romney go. I thought he was versatile.
Can we talk about Pokemon cards for a second? My oldest decided that she wanted a Pokemon cards for Christmas.
It's a hot thing.
Hot thing, right? And I'm like, listen, I get it. I mean, Pokemon cards were around whenever I was like younger.
They haven't gone away yet.
Yeah, the whole deal. But then like she's like sending me eBay listings, which is always a problem. Always a problem.
Those are the kind of cards. Okay,
right?
That's a whole different level. Yeah.
Like, hey, Dad, here's a PSA rated 10 Charizard from Germany, and I'm like, what? Excuse me? What is going on here?
I'm thinking about the packs from Target.
Yeah.
Walmart. Yeah. That's not where we're at here.
That you can't get because like some 37-year-old goes in there and buys all the boxes as soon as they come out. And the same guys. Have you seen the guys with the Hot Wheel cars who come in
and like looking behind? Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I just want to buy my kid a car. He's like, oh, which one is he getting? I'm like, do not talk to me. We are not the same people right now. This is a 3-year-old who wants a car. You are a 37-year-old who's looking for the next hot thing. I don't need to be part of that. Anyway, I'm getting old and I need to stop.
I kind of respect it though. Yeah, no, the thing I like about Hot Wheels, still 99 cents.
Still 99 cents. Yes.
Inflation be damned, still 99 cents.
Which is why I allow my son to get a car every time we go to Target because it's 99 cents. It's $1 and he's happy.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But going back to the Romney conversation where I was a little bit more upset to see him go because I thought he still could have got used for him. Steres, I was disappointed to see go. I would have liked to have him on the roster, but I understood why he was going to go be a starter somewhere else.
Same with Romney.
DePuy is one where I go, I'm not totally heartbroken that he's off the team. Wish him well and hope he could have success elsewhere. But I'm not too disappointed that he's gone. So to your Dr. Pepper drinking, Romney's your Dr. Pepper, Steres is your Mr. Pibb, and then DePuy is your Dr. Thunder. So I think have we beat that comparison? Do you have any other ones?
No, I think that's it. I don't want
Right,
to. Mine usually are adult rated when anytime I try to do something off the cuff, so it's never going to work.
That's not where I parked my car.
This is not where I park my car. I don't know where my car is, but this is not where we started. All right. So Nick DePuy. So the $50,000. It goes. Here's the rub, and I will whenever I get a chance with Greg and we're one-on-one and I have a little chance. I'm gonna ask him if he like throws something against the wall, because what happened was they trade Nick DePuy to Nashville for $50,000 in general allocation money, and right about the same time, Nashville announces that they got $650,000 in general allocation money for for Dave Romney, right? And so when you look at those two things, it's like, so did you undervalue Nick? Because Nick more than likely is going, and maybe isn't an exact replacement for Romney in Nashville, but is somebody who will compete for that spot in Nashville. Yeah. So
it's Romney-ish.
Yeah. So Nashville just made $600,000 off of spinning Dave Romney, who was a Galaxy player, gets another Galaxy player in Nick DePuy, and is going to do the same thing again. And you got $50,000. And I want to know if Greg Vanney saw them sell $650 and went, dang it, that's too low.
Could have gotten more.
Could have gotten more. Could have gotten 125. Yeah, exactly. Could have gotten 125. Couldn't got 150. You know. And I often wonder if you talk about that when you're a GM, you're like, listen, we're moving Dave, so we need somebody. So, blah, blah, blah. We'd like Nick. The whole day. Okay, we'll sell you Nick. Like, how much? We'll give you $50,000 a GM. Well, how much are you getting for Dave Romney? Yeah, I'm like, I wonder if that's like, if that happens, right? In the whole deal.
Are you allowed to ask that? Yeah, good times.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, by the way, $2 super chat donation for the Riccolo cough drops. I would like to, hold on, give me a second.
I was gonna say, not just Bob, but Bob Loblaw. Are you a Arrested Development guy? That's one of the. It's one of the dumbest jokes in the whole series, but just the fact that the lawyer's name, played by Scott Baio, is Bob Loblaw. It's a great meme, Bob Loblaw.
It is a great meme. I like that. $10 super chat from Emerson as well. Anyone want to meet at the tailgate and play Pogs? I just was talking about Pogs not too long ago. I had a Keeney. I looked at my wife. I'm like, yeah, man, I had some Keenies and get those Keenies and Slammers, right? And she's like,
Slammers. Did you have any pounders? Some plastic hard.
Oh yeah,
like 4 pounders deep. Yeah.
Yeah. You could super glue those together to get them real heavy. The whole deal. My wife looked at me like I was nuts, which is always fun. $10 super chat from Emerson. I think I said that already, but very good. All right. So Nick DePuy, $50,000, not a lot. You clear a little bit of room in terms of cap space, whatever. It's like $200 and something thousand. That's not the big deal. So with Nick DePuy off, and I just think it's all interesting whenever you can tie that in with Romney and sort of look at all that stuff and say, okay. Now here was the surprising one, right? The really surprising one, because I didn't expect that there was going to be anything else. This is actually when I called Uncle at the LA Galaxy. I said, okay, that's enough. Stop. There's 4 announcements with Sacha retiring in one day. It's a lot to pay attention to. The LA Galaxy signed midfielder Memo Rodriguez, free agent, 27 years old, is from the Houston Dynamo and spent his entire time with the Houston Dynamo. And he's a guy, 21 goals, 15 assists, 148 games played, 92 starts. I mean, he's going to be a depth piece in this LA Galaxy midfield. He can play left wing, he can play central mid. I think he can play a little CDM as well, but mostly CM and Cam for him, but also a left wing. So you're getting back up across the midfield, which I think is really cool. Yeah. He's a guy who knows how to play. This is not somebody who you're going to have to like sit there and like hold their hand. This is a professional who can come in and play a role. And that's the thing. So often we talk about the good LA Galaxy teams of the past of having guys coming off the bench who would be starters other places, right? And I think a lot of times we even overlook guys like Kelvin Leerdam, who is a very good player in his own right, but is a depth piece for this LA Galaxy team. That's depth. Memo Rodriguez provides depth and experience in a place the Galaxy don't have depth or experience. They have some depth, but not proven depth, and they don't have the experience on that. You're talking about Daniel Aguirre, Johnny Perez. You're talking about Adam Saldana, right? These are the guys who we've talked about a whole bunch that were sort of like, they're the next thing, but they don't have experience. So somebody said it best, I think, in the Discord. If you take Sacha Kljestan and Victor Vasquez, you get rid of them and you replace them with a Memo Rodriguez, you did something there. That is a move that you made that consolidated salary and got you a workable piece that doesn't make you change formations. So if you're talking about any of the signings, I think that have happened so far this year, which is kind of interesting because Chris Mavinga is going to end up being a high dollar signing. Not super high dollar, but it's a sizable chunk of the salary cap. Memo Rodriguez is going to end up being one of those signings where you sit there and go, this was probably a really good signing, and it's somebody the Galaxy absolutely needed for when Brugman can only go for 70 minutes, that type of thing.
Correct, and I think you nailed it. Lex mentioned it in the chat. You mentioned it on about the Discord. I think when you look at Vasquez and Kljestan, especially with Kljestan announcing his retirement today, and then Memo Rodriguez kind of sliding in, this feels like that replacement for what Kljestan brought on the field. When he was supposed to spell Brugman or Puig, or when he was going in there for Delgado, necessarily wasn't at the top of his game. But Rodriguez is someone who's absolutely a regular starter around this league and is going to be able to contribute and is going to probably even be better coming off the bench if that ends up being his role, which most likely will end up being his role. Because you could plug him in different areas as well. We've seen Grand Sur have to come off early, so he could slide in on the wing as well. We still don't have a winger on the other side. Is it Douglas Costa right now? But can Memo Rodriguez maybe kind of go back and forth and slot in on the other wing as well? So I think he is someone who is going to be great. He kind of reminds me of what Efrain Alvarez was supposed to be for the LA Galaxy. I think is what Memo Rodriguez was for Houston. Someone who was a homegrown player, scored some goals. I believe he scored against the Galaxy a couple times, if I remember correctly. So I think he's going to be. This is a nice little kind of under the radar, serviceable signing. Kind of reminds me like of a Mark Delgado signing of last season, where you don't think much of it, but he ends up having a great season. I think this is another one of those. You're not going to think much of it, but then when you see what he brings to the table, I think this is someone that the Galaxy are going to be happy with.
It feels that way. So you had Chris Mavinga coming in, non-TAM deal, 2 years, no options, right? Memo Rodriguez comes in 1 year guaranteed, 2 club options on the end of that, so club option in 24 and 25. So they're not stuck with him. It's flexible. They can do sort of what they need to do. It was really interesting. I was reading a whole bunch of sort of reports from Dynamo fans and stuff, and I think this one to me is sort of the guy. This is one to me captured, I think, somebody who actually watched him play. Galaxy fans, Memo is a hardworking and versatile player, can play winger, cam, or CM. He's a smart player who can make chances and will be a solid piece to y'all's team. He got a y'all in there because he's from Houston. He's no reject. He just needs new scenery. I hope he shines for y'all, two y'alls, except against us. So that was at Keeping Tabs Pod. So shout out to them for that little synopsis of Memo Rodriguez. I like this.
Those are the things you want to see. You don't want to see, kind of the replies that you saw when Colorado Rapids signed Kevin Cabral, as all the Galaxy fans saying LOL and saying, good luck with that. Or, that's what you don't want to see. You want to see, fans who are sad to see him leave, hope he has success elsewhere. Kind of like, where you're at a 50-50 mix with DePuy, where you're like, okay, I hope he does well in Nashville, figure it out. That's the type of thing you want to see. You don't want to see people saying, yeah, good luck, signing that bum, and that's not the reaction that you were seeing with him. You were seeing, okay, this guy's a decent player. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's for a depth piece, it's knocking it out of the park, especially if he can, is going to be able to contribute more than what Victor Vasquez and Sacha Kljestan did on the field. And to that point, you talk about the experience of Vasquez and Kljestan and being mentors. Rodriguez he's not a toddler. He's been around the league. He's been a homegrown player, had a lot of experience in the league. So that he could still provide that experience and that soccer mind. He's gonna work in that way too. This isn't just, someone who's fresh and, from League Two, League Two, who doesn't know his way around the league. This is someone who's going to know how to have an impact on the field.
Whenever he scores, does he go to the corner and then he writes down a little note because he's taking a memo? I just want to know.
Yeah, that's rough.
No, that was
we're
rough.
Good with dad jokes, and I like a good dad joke, but that was rough. Right on the edge. That was red line dad joke right there. Cool. I'll allow it though.
Cool. Noted. I'm just taking I'm just taking notes over here. Taking a memo, perhaps. Let's double down on the bad ones. That's what I say. I will take what? a little bit of
we're
heat.
having a tough time tonight. Yeah,
It is. It's one of those. I'm gonna take a little bit of fun away from the two signings. I would say that they did say similar things in their announcements whenever they said it. Memo goes, excited for this next step in my career. Can't wait to get started. See you soon. Chris Mavinga, new year, new color, new challenge. I'm really excited for this next step in my career. See you soon. I'm really excited, Eric, as we start season 15. I'm really excited for the next step in my career. See you soon. I don't know how you feel, but
well, I'll see you soon. I'm excited for the next step in my podcasting career. So also, I'm right there with you. So
okay.
yeah. The one thing, at least we went away from G's up. Hey, my G's. You get Ricky Puig in there. Hello, my G's. So maybe they did that in their video message. We'll see where it goes.
That's how you get canceled. I was wondering how it would be. That was it. Let's go, my G's.
The first time he said, I was like, oh no. But then you watch him play, and he's adorable.
Is that
God bless Ricky.
He is? He's a Disney character. I can't wait. Till it's 20 years down the road, and somebody goes, "Let's go, my G's," and you're like, "Yep, Ricky Puig." I remember that. It was the whole deal. So. All right, so that's the majority of the news today. A lot of stuff to cover, a lot of little things here and there. Nothing massive, like I said. Let's talk about two things before we close out. One is designated players. The LA Galaxy have a designated player spot open. They very well could have two designated player spots open. We were talking in the Discord today, and I was sort of seeing there, and I think there's always some concern. It's weird. This should be the LA Galaxy are full of opportunity, Eric, because they have an open DP spot. But there's also some concern that they're going to screw that up and tie themselves to a player for the next 3 to 4 years, and then that bogs everything down. And I was sort of kicking things around. I'm saying, it's not a horrible spot to be in right now. You can actually take a little bit of a gamble on a designated player in terms of the length of the contract. Because let's say Douglas Costa, you don't buy him out. Let's say he stays. His contract expires in December. So you get that one. Chicharito's contract expires in December. You're going to have 2 DPs coming up this next year. And you sort of have to try to hit a home run this year with your designated player, that at least one that you're trying to fill, because you don't get a chance at a second one in the summer or anything like that. So it's not the worst place. There's flexibility there. I think it changes a little bit if they do buy Douglas Costa out, because that means that they're more focused on now.
Well, and I think that's the curious thing, because it all depends on who you can get. Because if you can get a game changer, if you can get someone who is going to make a huge impact, and with the talk of Pavone, I know that's when, we don't know where Matt Doyle exactly got that rumor, but if you get someone like that, and then you're able to get someone else, that's a no-brainer to buy out Costa and bring in someone else to be that final piece. But the other thing I think we also need to consider is with Ricky Puig, if he has a good season, he's someone who is going to want to be compensated for how well he's playing. So if you let Chicharito lapse, you let Douglas Costa lapse, maybe one of those spots you need to save for Puig.
Yep.
And so that's something you need to consider as well. However that plays out. So that adds another wrinkle, depending on who you want to bring in, but it's all who's available. If the market right now doesn't have a game changer available to the Galaxy, they shouldn't offer that long-term
right.
And hamstring themselves. So I agree. They're in a good spot where their roster as is a competitive MLS roster, and it's just going to be icing whatever they're able to do. I still think they need that game changer piece to put them over the edge, but right now they're serviceable. The other thing is, in the summer they're not going to be able to bring anyone in, so does that add extra pressure in the preseason?
Yes. Oh yeah, it adds a ton of pressure, and I think Greg Vanney's going to go out there. The Christian Pavone thing is this, and I've said this, and I think I've made it very clear. The LA Galaxy, I'm sure, would love to have Christian Pavone back. In fact, I think if you really want to play tinfoil hat, maybe the sanctions came in when they came in because the LA Galaxy were going to bring in Christian Pavone again, and they needed to clean up whatever failings they had before.
That doesn't smell funky. That smells like what we're cooking. Yeah.
Here's the thing: one is I don't know that there is any such rumor that Christian Pavone is coming in. I will say this, and I will reiterate again, is that Greg Vanney likes Christian Pavone and always has. Greg Vanney, sporting director. By the way, can I complain? In everything that all the announcements that they're putting out today and all the press releases, that's Greg Vanney head coach. It's not Greg Vanney acting sporting director, and I don't like that.
Well, Greg Vanney head coach isn't wrong.
No, but he's the sporting director right now. He's the acting sporting director.
Right, Before
like
the ball's being kicked, we'll call him the sporting director.
right. I mean, that's what they told us he was going to be, was acting sporting director. So it's one of those I sort of sit there and go, huh. So I think that Vanney very well could go down that path again. Now, again, it sort of goes to that same thing we talked about at the beginning, which was you have a scouting network, right? There's other players in this world besides former TFC players and Christian Pavone.
Yeah, and former Galaxy players. Yeah,
And former Galaxy players. But at the same time, Pavone's a known product, right? And we
you know
what
what you're getting.
You know what and that's something you can't say for any other DP that you're bringing in from outside the league. You can't say that really you know what you're going to get from that. So there's some of that too. So we'll see where that goes and see how that lands. This is the final thing that I will bring up to you. Before we leave, there was some news in the Noisy Neighbor section today that Will Kuntz, who is their number 2 under, I believe, John Thorrington, right? Guy who was spoken very highly of, was with the Yankees, was widely credited with being heavily involved in creating and building rosters for LAFC. He left the club. We don't know under what circumstances he left the club. We don't know, and we've been asking around. It's not like it was a whole deal. We don't know what circumstance he left the club, but this is a guy who is a heavy hitter in Major League Soccer. This is a guy who somebody said, if you're looking for a chief soccer operations guy, this is your guy.
I think there was a tweet out there. He's considered the best number 2 in the league. So like someone who is a GM in waiting and basically is just waiting for his shot. So is there a team that needs a GM?
I don't know.
Or that needs a president?
I don't know.
Is there a team without a president?
We don't know. We don't know what we are. Right now, the LA Galaxy presidency is Schrodinger's cat. It is both. Yes, it is alive and it is dead at the same time. Chris Klein is both the president and not the president at the same time. Because if you can't observe him, which nobody has been able to, can you tell if he's the president or not? So this is something to watch. I'm not saying that there's any rumors that put him there, but it is. Listen, geographically for him, I'm sure it would work real fine for him to stay in Los Angeles and become a GM somewhere and go up against his former team. I think most people look forward to that, right? Like that's a challenge. This seems like a guy who is ready for that challenge. So that's where we're at. That's sort of where I feel everything is left at right now. Anybody ask any news on Isco? No, that's more fan rumors than anything else.
I thought didn't he land on a La Liga 2 team?
I haven't seen that yet. I heard he was still up for grabs, and there are very rumorish reports of that MLS possibly could be his next landing spot. LA Galaxy.
I thought he got swooped up already.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so though. I think I saw today. I think I saw today that he was being linked with the LA Galaxy again.
That'd be great. I'd be okay with that.
So he doesn't. I don't know how well he fits. He's more of a 10. He more sits centrally. You have Puig, you have Bergman, you have Delgado. Who's he going to take over for? He needs to play winger. The Galaxy need a winger, Eric. A 10+10 guy. They need a 10+10. Who's going to be the 10 goals, 10 assists guy? They need that guy because if they get that guy, and I will once again point out, I think the LA Galaxy had the 6th best offense in all of Major League Soccer last year. Just take that as you will.
That's not bad.
It's not bad at all. Right?
When you look, it's so funny. When you look back at the season.
Does it feel that way?
It doesn't feel that way, yeah.
No,
but,
I know.
But then you look back and you say, actually, yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
You look at some of those hot streaks that they were on.
Somebody says apparently that post was a joke from the 2nd Division Spanish team.
All right. It felt wrong. I was like, how did he land there? How is that the option?
Yeah. I know my Spanish laughing. So, yeah, there we go. That's where we sit. Did you like that? That was. Again,
I like the memo joke better than that.
So the worst joke was better. Yeah. That's how dad jokes work. I understand. That's where we sit. LA Galaxy at 24 players on the roster. I actually did, and I was trying to compile the allocation money that I see in 2023. Here's sort of where I have everything right now for allocation money is that I have the Galaxy have about $1 million in allocation money. Now, that doesn't count before they get $1 million taken away on fines for the Christian Pavone signing way back in the day. So maybe they have $0 in general allocation money right now, but they're getting $600,000 this year from Kevin Cabral. They're getting $50,000 from Nick DePuy. They're getting $200,000 from Sebastian Lletget in 2020 from that 2022 move. They owe $100,000 on Mark Delgado. It was conditional, but on incentives. But I'm sure he hit those because he played a bunch. There's a possibility of $800,000 coming for Sebastian Lletget. We don't know if they got that or not, but we have to assume that perhaps they did. $50,000 for the Yenich, the rights that we talked about. Chase Gasper cost them $450,000 this year in general allocation. He also cost them another $300 in incentive base. We don't know whether or not they're paying that. That's sort of a guess. I don't know. And then $150,000 from Ryan Rurellison whenever he came in. So there's all these things that are sort of put together, and as we mark these things and we can try to keep track of them, bottom line is we have no freaking idea. I mean, that's really what this guy, I put a really good chart together to tell you I have no idea how much the LA Galaxy have in general allocation money. But just to give you an idea of the money that comes in and goes out in a general given year, somebody has a spreadsheet somewhere and they keep track of that stuff. It's not me. I have a loose spreadsheet sometimes.
I was gonna say, someone has one that actually counts. Yeah, someone who keeps those sheets there.
Let's go. $5 super chat from Lex. Are you guys at all surprised at how quickly the demand rumors for Julian fizzled out? I mean, not a single rumor this offseason winter transfer window. Two things. Very up and down season last year. Other thing is, LA Galaxy seemed very committed to keeping him this year. So I don't know that there really is even anybody, they were even entertaining any ideas. So I think those are the two things. I'm not surprised. Maybe that window closed. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like Julian could very well, with a good season, be right back out there.
I really hope so. I'm really rooting for Julian Araujo to get his European dream and kind of make that move, because he was someone who's on the trajectory. But I to answer the question, I am surprised that there hasn't been a single rumor, no interest. It seemed like there was some things cooking, and then it just kind of went flat. And then his play kind of went away with that. We mentioned that he's one of the players who's going to be on their way to media day. So maybe the Galaxy is making this push to make him a Galaxy star, to put him on the map, and then hopefully that will help him have some success elsewhere. The one thing that just concerns me, and it's in the back of my head, and it happens, is sometimes MLS, there's MLS lifers who there's rumors of possibly going to Europe, and then, it doesn't happen one summer, and then they get stuck into a contract with an MLS team, and they just become MLS lifers. And not that that's not a respectable way to have a soccer career, but when you see a player like Julian Araujo with a lot of ambition and a lot of promise, there's no reason why he can't be that guy and end up in Europe. So I'm rooting for him. Hopefully those rumors, and he has such a strong season that those rumors just become inevitable, and he could find his way. How rare is it that we're upset that players are leaving the team, and here we are rooting for a player to play so well that, for him to be scooped up by someone. I think with his age, that's exactly kind of the way MLS is set up and how we want to root for him. So, I'm surprised by it, and I'm hoping that he could eventually get there.
$5 super chat from Michael says, sorry I'm late. Any news on Pavone? Nope. No news on Pavone. Just go back and listen about 15 minutes, and I think you'll find all that stuff is...
We beat that one down, Michael. Thanks for joining us a little bit late. But yeah,
yeah,
it's nothing right now.
Yeah, Walter Campos asks what happened to the Salvadoran player that supposedly had signed with us. That was a joke. That was Brian Rodriguez, I believe, and that one wasn't going to happen. He was joking around whenever the whole thing. So too many jokes. So everybody's got the jokes.
Isco thing. Yeah, I got burned by the Isco thing. To be fair, I wasn't paying close enough attention, but apparently that was a joke.
Brian Tamakis, that's what it was. There it was. Okay, that's I couldn't remember what the guy's last name was. So yeah, I will. Let me throw out this warning. You want a warning? Chris Mavinga.
Sure, I'll take a warning.
Chris Mavinga comes in from Toronto. What does he need to come in from Toronto?
Oh no, P1 visa.
P1 visa on an ITC. He needed an international transfer certificate to go from Toronto to the LA Galaxy. So you know how people were saying, oh, well, basically the Galaxy will have to shop within Major League Soccer, and I've even theorized that because it's a single entity, they can actually do that. May not be true. They may need an ITCs in order to make those transfers even within the league, which means the LA Galaxy would not be able to do anything in the summer except send guys out. They could get money. They just couldn't spend it. So I don't know. Here's the addition to that warning. People are not prepared for the anger that is going to come out this summer whenever the Galaxy can't sign anybody. It will be off.
They're forgetting about it already.
It will be off the charts because you're going to watch all these teams add players, and the Galaxy won't be one of those.
And it's in a World Cup year where players made names for themselves and became household names in this past winter, they're going to become available in the summer, and the Galaxy will not be on the list of teams able to sign them. Yeah, that's going to be really unfortunate.
It's going to be, this podcast will be, all it will be is just like breathing into a paper bag for everybody, so that way we can calm everybody down. All right.
Or
all right.
we'll just yell with everyone too. That works too.
Yeah, whatever. It's all good. All right. I think we're done. That's it. I'm done. You're done.
This is closer to an hour. With all the news that we had, I thought maybe we'd go an hour and a half, but yeah, closer to an hour, but I'll take it.
I don't have the voice for that. My voice is just barely recovered today, where to the point where I can sound almost okay. I'm sure people still notice a little raspiness in there. You don't want to hear me sing right now, so we won't do that. No karaoke. Not like last time you and I were on the podcast together.
We got the Reba queued up. Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah, well, it's fancy.
Yeah,
fancy. Okay. I just
shout out to everyone who went and discovered that song for the first time and walked away with their jaws dropped once they realized the content of that music.
I love all the Star Wars references that are popping up into this. The hate leads to suffering. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Pain is weakness leaving the body. I love it. We're a real inspired chat room. If you haven't joined our chat room,
it is one of the better chats on the planet here. The galaxy, I must say.
Oh, in the galaxy? Look at you. Very nice. Let me write that down. Okay,
the first one to do that. Nice memo you did there.
There's exactly. Can we get this? Can we get the paper writing sound and then every time we talk about Memo, we'll just play that in the background. I think there we go. We have locked in 2023. It should be a good one. A lot of fun things coming up. LA Galaxy headed to Coachella. That's coming up. We have preseason games coming up. LA Galaxy reporting. Then LA Galaxy, LAFC at the Rose Bowl. So a lot of fun stuff. Shout out to the LA Galaxy, by the way. Sent me a pickleball set, an LA Galaxy pickleball set. Oh wow!
I was gonna say I'm banging microphones.
Wow!
I play pickleball. I like pickleball.
I don't know
my
about
pickleball set. Yeah, pickleball, sport of the future.
Hey, stoppage time from Herb. Upper V. It's Herb's back. Happy New Year, Josh and the Hammer. Late to the show. $20 super chat from Herb. We salute you, Sir Herb. Thank you very much for reaching out to us. Thank you for joining in. We certainly appreciate it. All right, let's close it down. Anything else you want to talk about? You good?
That's good. Well, I usually share my social medias. I do have a social media update.
Oh, yes.
So I am now Hammer EV9 on everything. So Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
Alignment.
It's all the same social. I teased a rebrand last week, but the Professional Foul, which was previously on Instagram, I've kind of gone away from that, following players on social media. Since I created that account, there's been a lot of other LA Galaxy accounts that have popped up, and they actually do it a lot better than I was doing it, quite frankly. So I figured I'm going to stick to the Hammer stuff. Still going to give my opinions, still going to give my insights, do my dances, do my thing, play the Hammer hits. I'm basically going to be like LA Galaxy Smash Mouth. The catalog isn't deep, but you're going to sing along when All-Star comes on. So, So I'm just going to stick with everything at Hammer EV9 on everything. On Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Hammer EV and the number 9. So that's my little social media update that I have in my life going on.
Very, very good. Make sure you follow Hammer there. If you're looking for me on Twitter, at Guesman, it's still the same. At Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Day number 5 of Who is Your President? Rockin' and rolling. Here we go. LA Galaxy, 15th season of coverage here on Corner of the Galaxy, getting ready to kick you off for another season of 2023. For Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Patrick Guesman. You've been listening, you've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everyone.